Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Soulforce Music Fireside Chats. I'm Joseph Arnold, violinist and Alexander Technique teacher.
I'm Aaron Beagleisen. I am a vocalist and an Alexander Technique teacher.
Yeah, so in these Fireside Chats we are thinking aloud, attempting to answer the question, what is Soulforce music? And one thing that we talked about yesterday was having an appreciation for letting that be an open question. Because here we are presenting this thing, Soulforce music, and you might think like we should know exactly what it is. But it's kind of amazing that we're in a constant process of deepening our understanding of what the heck this is. And I actually kind of think that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would be really boring if we are just like, okay, this is what it is. You like eat this, you eat this cheese, and you exercise 43 minutes a day, and like you do, I don't know, tantric yoga, and then you have Soulforce music. Like that would be so boring. So yeah, we're taking the time to let this be an open process.
Right.
Yeah, and there's something really pleasurable and right about that.
Yeah, because it's a really big thing. We're asking big questions here, and we're going to be diving into one of the core aspects of what this is all about today. We're going to be talking about play a little bit, the importance of play, and also like where I want to begin is with the state of the world and like what is the place for musicians in this new chaotic world, and what is musicianship really all about? What is like maybe a new kind of musicianship, and like what does the world need right now? From us, from musicians. And again, this goes back to the genesis of this idea. Back in March, when the shutdown happened, and I was certainly thinking, like, what am I doing with my life now? A musician, I can't play out anymore. At least I had a couple gigs over the summer. But even like long term, like does the world even need music now? Like, doesn't the world need just like I don't know, help for all these people who are starving and suffering, and like what's the place of music and all of this? And it's like I was really diving into these. I know we had many conversations about all of this, and one theme that keeps coming up for me is the interrelatedness of the part to the whole. And what I mean by that, there's actually many examples of this that we are discovering in Soulforce music. The interrelatedness between the performer and the audience, interrelatedness of parts of ourselves to the whole of ourselves, interrelatedness of like a musician to the world, and and the act of playing music to your life overall.
Right.
And that's kind of our way in today. And what I've seen before, what I certainly experienced in my own life and professional career as a musician, and high level conservatory training, is that it's even though being a musician is kind of like a whole lifestyle a lot of times, often the act of playing music is kind of separate from other aspects of my life, or at least perceived to be. And so it doesn't really matter like how I eat or care for myself or my state of mind. As long as I get up there and play some notes, then I've done the gig and now I can go home.
Sweet.
right so and I don't know about you, but that's not very satisfying for me, and it doesn't really get to like what music is really all about for me. And so here's the connection then with like my own, what would actually feed me more, what actually does feed me more, is to view the music that I play as coming from my own well-being, And the greater my own well-being, the better the music. And there's this horrible trope of the starving artist, or like the suffering artist, that the more you suffer, the greater your art's going to be. And there's something to be said for that. Times of struggle can, if you face them constructively, can really bring about new growth. But it's also not true in that if I'm not taking care of myself, especially if I'm really stressed and my body's getting tight and I'm disconnected from my own emotions while I'm playing, then I'm not going to be giving as good a performance. I'm not going to be spreading what I've been conceiving of as Soulforce. That's kind of the answer to the question, what does the world need? I'm not going to be spreading Soulforce in the world. And my vision for Soulforce Music School is that musicians spread Soulforce in the world through their performances. And so Soulforce is that, again, that quality in a person that inspires. Gandhi had this in spades. The walk to the ocean, to get salt. Here is a man who's like all in, and did these amazingly powerful acts. And he had a whole nation, 1 billion people, supporting him because he had this quality in him. And of course, many musicians have this as well. Miles Davis and John Coltrane. For some reason, I keep thinking about jazz people. I guess it's because I have a jazz degree. But
no, it's only jazz musicians.
But you can remember going to performances where you feel changed inside. Maybe the Grateful Dead had this too. Where it's like a whole experience of dance and jamming out and the ecstasy of performance. So that's sort of my vision for musicianship, is that it's moving towards Soulforce, not merely playing a gig, although gigs are great. Play gigs, you got to make a living. Not merely playing the notes all right, but although if you got to get the notes right, or else it's not the piece. Even in jazz, if you're playing out of key or whatever, it's not going to even not work so well. Lost my train of thought there.
That's fine. Well, I got a couple things that
yeah, you go for it.
All right, so one thing that comes to mind is so the idea is these are a couple nice phrases I've soaked up from Joseph. So that you are your instrument, and so that the way that you take care of yourself is actually the way that you make music.
That's right.
Okay, so I'd say a good example that comes to mind is let's say somebody who appears, it's like somebody who's like appears very high functioning, but you look in their apartment and it's a mess, and they don't sleep and they run on coffee. Right. And the thing is that quality of being of I got to get things done, I got to do it right, I got to look good. That's all coming through in your performance, and that's what an audience hears and sees.
That's right.
So another thing is that something that's been something of a revelatory shift for me is, up until a certain point in my own self-care routine, it seemed like a bunch of different separate boxes that were happening, right? So I had my meditation, and then I had my job, which was hard. And then I ran because it made me feel better, and then I had a sense of energy, and then I cooked and I tried to be good about what I ate, and so on and so forth. But for me, something that's been a really revelatory shift is now, how do I have these different parts of my life actually be interconnected and feed each other? So it's just like what you were saying, Joseph, where if you're practicing with mentality, I got to get this done, I got to get this right, that's a wear and tear kind of mentality. That doesn't rejuvenate me. It just takes something out of me. Yeah. And I might have a sense of accomplishment, but it's just this diminishing energy level. Yeah. And I think what's this kind of revolutionary way of making music and also living is that the activities that you participate in, you're not drawing from a finite battery, which is like these separate things that you have to draw in this finite battery. All of the activities of your life can actually feed each other. They show each other how to be. And so a really good example of that is if your musical practice is something that consistently feeds you, makes you feel better by the time you're done, that's something that's going to influence the rest of your day. in a beautiful way.
Yeah, it's going to help you play better.
Mm.
It's going to help you sound better. You're going to feel better while you play. And you'll actually learn things faster. I learn things way faster now than I did back when. I know I was practicing for hours and hours. You know.
That's right.
And it's just a lot less work when I'm in a more playful way of being. The power of playfulness.
Yes.
It's practical and feels good and it's fun.
Yeah.
So that's why you do it. And your audiences will love it.
Yeah.
Your audiences will love it. Your colleagues too.
Yeah. So one other thing I wanted to say, which was that again, so let's say that the end goal of a Soulforce musician is to be an agent of like deep, powerful change in the world. Right? That might sound like a this kind of idea, like lofty, and it might also sound like something where you really got to hunker down and do a lot of stuff. And I'd say both of those things miss the essence of what these practices are all about and what the goal of music actually is, which is if you let something about listening from your heart, playing from the heart. Well, hopefully we'll get to chat about this a little bit today. This is kind of Joseph's centerpiece, and it's so beautiful. If you allow these activities to be things that consistently feed you and feed the rest of your life, your purpose starts to uncover itself in part, and you begin to have the capacity for greater and greater and more beautiful things. That's been my experience. And it's fun. It's not hard work. It's not like, oh, I got to go out there and it's like I have a strong desire. I have a strong desire to really be coming from a place of impassioned being, and that seems to be like the fire underneath everything that I do when I have access to it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. So we were gonna jam on this idea here of the power of playfulness. And I don't know about you, but my conservatory training did not include but a whit of playfulness.
you must have skipped those classes, Joseph. Were they at 8:30? You slept right through?
Yeah, too early for me. Yeah, it was this very heavy, serious thing, and it was supposed to be about expression, but we didn't even talk about how to express effectively.
Right.
It was all just, go back to the practice room. And like a bunch of people who are really hard on themselves all the time. Yeah. And it's this funny thing. If you are really hard on yourself, you might think that you're being more effective. You might think that. And it can kind of seem so in the short term. You get a lot of things done, maybe. But then your batteries run out. Yeah. And your body's really tight all the time. For me, I started to get pain in my arms because I was running on empty and practicing 4 hours a day while being really, really, really hard on myself. Yeah. And so it works in the short term, but it feels really bad. Yeah. And the long-term consequences are severe. Yeah. Pain, burnout, disillusionment, depression, anxiety.
The combo, baby.
Yeah. This is maybe why musicians are known for the amount of alcohol that we drink. But in any case, so there is another way, and one aspect of this is playfulness. And playfulness gets a really bad rap. Yeah. In our sort of achievement-oriented, driven culture. And this is really too bad because it really is kind of a special secret ingredient.
Yeah. I think something that comes up for me, just to clarify, when I started, I'd say my journey of self-exploration, I had an idea about what playfulness was. And it wasn't a quality of being that allowed me to be easier. Basically, it wasn't actually feeding me to be playful. It was just an idea because I thought I was supposed to be playful. So I was doing playfulness. And I would say that playfulness is an inherent quality in all life. I mean, like every mammal you look at, the babies just play all the time. The adults play all the time. It's why we we love dogs because like they're the only thing in our whole culture that's actually allowed to play. You know, it's like, oh, I wish I could do that. Well, you can. So it's this innate capacity that we have. There's something that's actually seems to be incredibly important biologically to be able to be playful. Yeah. Because that's a trait that we could have just had all serious mammals. Yeah. You know, but apparently that was way too hard.
Yeah. What comes up to mind is we call it playing music. Why do we call it playing music when everybody's so effing serious about it? Or yeah. So what is it to play music? What is that all about? And what is this thing about being so serious? And can reclaiming play make us better musicians? Let us have more fun and enjoyment, pleasure. Let our audiences have more fun, enjoyment, and pleasure, and more depth of feeling. Can it make practicing fun? Yeah. My God, just heresy. Yeah. So, yeah, all of that. Go.
Okay. All right. Let me just wrap all that up really quick. I got 3 words for you. Life is fun, and then that's it. Well, actually, I like that. No, but let's see. What was coming up for me around this? Let's see. Okay, remind me. I think now I lost my train of thought.
Okay. So, playfulness is something that I certainly had unlearned.
Oh yeah, right. Okay, all right. So something's come up for me, but do you want to? So gracious. All right. So let's just play a little game, okay? Let's just play a little game. So just for a second, think about doing something really seriously, like really get serious about it. You know, like really gonna. Sorry, I can't keep that up very long. Just get. You know, just get really, really serious about it, and just notice what happens in your body. Is that fun? Can you imagine this way of? I'm going to be really serious about this. Can you imagine that being something that sustains you for your whole life, that brings you joy? For me, this is what was killing me. Was this? I got to be serious. Oh, I'm learning German art songs. I got to really take these seriously. And the fact of the matter is that it just doesn't help. It just doesn't help. Maybe in the short term, if you got a gig that's happening tomorrow, and you're going to get paid $1,000, and you got to learn a piece of music, well then maybe in the short term you work yourself a little bit too hard, and you get that done. But what we're looking for is a way of making music that sustains you for your whole life. So it's not just these series of short-term burnouts that you just try to recover from. Yeah. It's coming again and again and again into the space where you can just be rejuvenated by the music that you play. So, yeah, I think, and this quality of being, if you can get even a touch of it in any aspect of your life, what's also crazy, it starts to get pervasive, which is wonderful. I noticed myself doing this. I've started to do these. I've started what I'm currently doing for exercise. What I'm doing for fun these days that involves me moving is I'm starting to learn how to do what I guess one might call sledgehammer flow. Yeah. So it's basically like, how do I move in coordination with a sledgehammer? And it's kind of like any other flow arts that you might be familiar with. It just happens to have a 10-pound weight attached to the end of it. And something about that, the quality that I approach that, I did that this morning, and it left me with this way of being that was playful and grounded. And so I could bring that into the rest of my day. So, yeah.
Yeah, so what happens in your body when you allow in a more playful attitude?
Yeah. So for me, I immediately get a sense of ease and movement. I don't know if you notice this, but it's like, okay, I'm going to get really serious. You can probably even see it in the camera, and you might notice happening reflexively in yourself that your body it stops moving. Yeah. You stop moving.
Get a little tighter.
Yeah. And so this playfulness, it's just allowing for the possibility of things, and something about that allows me to move and be much more easily in the world.
So let's give some examples. So how can people apply the power of play to their practicing, their performances, like today?
Ooh, great question. Well, you know what actually comes to mind for me is, so there's this practice in the Alexander technique. It's called the whispered ah. And I think both Joseph and I hate this practice. We hate this practice. It's fine, but it's just like this whole rigmarole. It's super tedious.
Oh my God.
But the one aspect of it that really, really works is this guy, FM Alexander, really buttoned up, trying to make a name for himself as somebody who appeared very professional. You know, he's coming onto the scene in the early 20th century. He's not that well educated, so he's maybe not that secure within himself about coming into the world of high society. Anyway, so a lot of his stuff is pretty rigid in its approach. But the one thing that he really nails, I think, for the whispered ah, is just think of something that makes you smile.
Right. So, give you some context here. Whispered ah is a procedure that looks something like this. That is said to let your body become more free. It involves steps like, first, think of something funny.
Yes.
Right, and then let some space in between your top and bottom back teeth, and then aim a stream of air to where your hard palate meets your soft palate, making a AH sound with your whisper, not an HA sound with your whisper. And this is supposed. I just find these steps to be just so constrictive. Yeah, there's actually a couple of things with this, but the important thing that I was hearing from you is that it begins with, freedom begins with being playful.
Yes, and that's something that you can actually. It seems like a silly trick, you just think about whatever it might be. There might be a moment in your life where every time you think of it, it's like, I can't believe that happened, right? Or just something funny you saw on Facebook the other day. So, it's something that you can access right now. Just take 3 seconds. I just thought of something funny. And I feel better. I feel more at ease. I don't know if you notice this, but my voice just got more resonant. And I can be now a better person. So that's all just from thinking about something funny.
Yeah, so maybe an easy thing to do is, before you practice, think of something funny.
Yeah.
Or you have that one really tricky, gnarly phrase in your piece. And what you do before you practice that little phrase is think of something funny, or put yourself in a frame of mind so that your mood is a little elevated, so your body is more at ease. And when your body is more at ease, it's going to help you play that passage better, more fluidly. It's going to sound better from the get-go. And you're going to enjoy, dear God, the process of practicing more, which will help you practice more. Right? Because that's the thing about exercise as well. We think of exercise as this very rigid thing that's supposed to feel hard, and I got to do it this particular way. Then you're not likely to enjoy it, and if you're not enjoying it, you're not likely to keep doing it. Right?
Yeah.
So having playful exercise, having playful practice, even just bring the word play to your mind. I was doing this with a student recently, and he was doing some push-ups and not enjoying them. And he was tight in his body, very uncomfortable doing these push-ups, and he has to because of PT or something, physical therapy, and so his body is in pain. He's supposed to be doing these push-ups. It doesn't feel good. So I suggested this quality of play. Is there some way, in just like putting your hands, on this, in this case it was a dresser, that could be playful? Is there some way of like arranging your feet, just like the simple act of putting your feet back away from the dresser? Is there some way that this, going down and going back up might be playful? And it was really actually kind of interesting. He reported that none of it was playful, but that simply by considering that there could be play, just considering the possibility, he reported that his movement got lighter, it was more fluid, it felt easier overall, it felt better in his body.
Yeah.
So just considering the fact that it could be playful before, like as you practice, as you walk up on stage.
Yeah. Yeah, I think also what comes up for me is two things around that. One is that, again, that there's nothing that you necessarily have to impose on your system. You don't have to impose playfulness on you can if you want to. Give it a whirl. It's hard. But you can, but if even so having enough patience with yourself to realize that, like, I practiced in a serious way for, I don't know, like 10 years, maybe something like that, with an increased intensity over my years in conservatory. And it took me a while to start to really have access to a different way of practicing and being. So just have some patience with yourself. And if so it's just like that one of these markers that I love from Joseph is just, okay, so is it harder or easier now? Is it harder for you to do this or easier? And so this person considered play, and their life got easier. So the proof's in the pudding.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because the activity itself is not the only thing that matters. Right? How you do the activity matters for the quality of the performance, whatever it is, and how you function and how you feel in it, and that's super important for the long term. I'd say it's important for the short term too, but where the rubber really meets the road is in the long term.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, again, another thing that's coming to mind is just that it's like, what's the arc that you want to have? Do you want to have all these short-term, kind of slowly diminishing, spiraling downward returns? Or do you want a way of being that's going to be wiggly for sure, but that aims you towards greater and greater states of pleasure in your life, doing the things that you actually want to do?
Right. And which way is more likely to get you to Soulforce? Right?
Yeah.
So Soulforce, giving it, like, performances that you find inspiring, that's where it starts. Again, this is the interrelationship of performer to audience. In order to inspire your audience, you have to inspire yourself. Right? And one of the great ways to do that is through this attitude of play.
Yeah.
So if you're being playful up on stage, you're sending off these signals of enjoyment and ease and engagement and emotional depth. That it just happens. It just happens when you're in a more playful way. That you express something deeper without trying to. And so, and this end goal here, so to speak, of giving musical performances that have Soulforce, like, you're just not going to get there if you're really tight and serious all the time. You're just not. So we typically think of play as being like a lower developmental stage. Like, children play, and so we have to abandon that as we become adults and do things in the world. And what I'm really interested in is doing these hard things that you have to do with play, because then that levels you up to the next thing.
Right.
So doing the hard thing doing it damn well, and still having that quality of play, because play will help you do the hard thing damn well, and will be really inspiring to you, to your audience, and that's what the world needs. We need this inspiration, this combination of skill and play. I believe that so deeply.
Yeah. It's for me, the question that comes to mind is do we need? It seems that what we need is playful people doing really difficult things.
That's right.
Yeah, playful people doing really difficult things.
The world sure has enough of those things.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, and there's no way, for me anyway, there's no way that I can make the change happen that I want to see in the world, coming at it from like a guy who's going to do hard stuff. That's, to me, that just, I don't know. It's just not fun. It's just not fun, and I get tired so much more quickly. Yeah. And I also, there's something about this. There's this tie-in for playfulness and receptivity. So when you try to be really serious, you might notice that your vision starts to get tighter. It might get more narrow. You might notice that you stop sensing things like your legs or something like that. This is actually, this attitude of seriousness cuts you off from the rest of the world. And you can just try it. Get really serious and see if you notice more or less of the world. One of the most beautiful things about music is that you're listening. So you're listening to yourself and you're responding to yourself over the course of time. And in order to have that sensitivity, you have to actually be responsive in your body. If you cut off the rest of the world and try to be serious about it, the odds of you being able to listen to yourself, let alone the other members of your ensemble, it's so hard. Yeah. And then it's just something else you have to do. I got to listen to the people and I got to get the notes right. It's all just, it's like this stacking of a lot of hard things. It's like, just, you can actually just let that go.
Yeah, and then the quality of what you do gets better.
Way better.
Because all that efforting is actually interference. Far from being the thing that actually helps you do what you want to do. It is interference, because when you have that tight attitude, your body gets tight. And when your body gets tight, everything is harder.
Yeah.
It's like wrapping yourself in rubber bands. It's not going to help you go better.
You could try it, but...
Yeah, and so what is the Alexander technique? It's like letting go of those rubber bands.
Yeah.
It's an undoing.
Yeah.
So I'd love to leave you with, again, something practical that you can do. And it's my own version, or like a borrowed version of the whispered awe.
Yeah.
But without all the nonsense. In my opinion. It actually comes from polyvagal theory. Polyvagal meaning the different branches of the vagus nerve, and very briefly, the vagus nerve goes from the 10th cranial nerve. One of the branches goes to the heart, and then back up to the voice and face. So it's responsible for, there are 3 different branches. One is the rest and digest state, easy sociability, really great for playing music in that state. 2 is the serious, got to do it fast and got to get it right kind of state. Most of us live there most of the time, right? So that's part of, actually, that's a survival mechanism that we have. And then 3rd is dorsal vagal collapse, which is, I can't do it, I give up. And yeah, and so a nice phrase for vasovagal, the rest and digest, is I'm at ease with myself and I have plenty of time. Just take that thought in. I'm at ease with myself and I have plenty of time. Yeah, I'm already getting easier.
Me too.
And so 1 is you can just use that as a mantra. And 2, you can do an ocean breath or like a sigh of some kind. And that can be something that switches you very quickly into a more easeful state. So one way that we can do it is through the ocean breath. So let's all try that together. Nice deep breath. And you let it out very slowly with the ocean breath. I can feel my guts letting go.
Me too.
And my back releases the tension in my back. Yeah, that was great. So another variation is through pursed lips. The longer you can let it out, the better. You might notice that when you're stressed, you go, or, you know, these are like inherent to us, these self-care techniques. We do it sort of unconsciously. And another way is with an actual audiated sound. And again, if you go from the very top of your vocal range to the bottom, and you make it nice and long, then it can offer you just a little bit of relief very quickly. And if you do that, like before you practice that tricky spot, right? That ease will carry through into that tricky spot, letting you doing it better, and it'll feel better, and be less hard to learn it more quickly, etc., etc. Very good. I think that's enough for today.
Well,
Any
wait.
final thoughts?
Okay, so just to recap, if you want to give this a try, there are a couple things that you can do, right? You can, before you start, you can just think of something funny, right? Just think of something funny. It'll take you 3 seconds, and it'll make your life better, and it'll make your practicing better. And so you can have a sigh or an ocean breath, or like a resisted breath out. And again, that's something that you can do in 5 seconds. It's going to make a palpable difference in your day and in your life. I'd say for me, something else that is tied in with playfulness and accessing that is sometimes doing up your seriousness a little bit. So when I was starting my practice of trying to find a freer version of myself, oftentimes, again, I would try to impose play on top of what I was feeling as seriousness. Now, this is just adding more layers to the difficulty. Okay, because so now you're not just fighting one part of you're not just being serious. You're struggling against the serious part, which is going to actually make it more serious.
Yeah.
So something that you can do is, if you notice you're getting serious, well, let yourself go with it for a second. You can just try this just for fun. It's like, let you notice yourself serious, let yourself be a little bit more serious. And you might notice that at some point there's this turnaround point where you start to open up. It's like this reflexive action of not fighting yourself. When you get serious, you just let it go, and boom. Yeah. It wants to free itself, but you really have to give it even if you just give 2 seconds to let it go a little bit more. Yeah. Yeah. And it just opens right back up.
That's right. Yeah, it reminds me of the super slump. And I'll teach that next time, maybe. Yeah, excellent. Good stuff. Is there anything else? Yeah, that feels good to me. All right, well, stay tuned. We'll have another video, Soulforce Music Fireside Chat, coming your way next week. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Maybe we'll answer those in one of our next episodes. Okay?
All right.